Well, I officially call to order the City of Travelers Rest City Council meeting for Thursday, March the 16th. Was Ides of March yesterday? Okay, never mind. I was going to make a joke, but I have to say that for next year. Okay, so welcome. Thank you for our guests for being here. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
The raffle.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we will ask Councilmember Byers to please pray for council. Kelly? All right. First up, we have approval of minutes from our previous meeting, which is February the 16th. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second? Okay. First by Rick, second by Kelly. Do we have any edits? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you for that. Citizen participation, we have none. Ordinances for second reading, we have none. So we'll move into our committee reports. We'll start with Public Works Chair Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. So our committee members, council members Lane and Mara, can I have someone, a motion to approve the minutes from our committee?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you so much. And here's our report. The Public Works Committee met March 6th and discussed the February Public Works report. Director Tate provided a Public Works update noting the bathrooms at Trailblazer Park are in the process of being painted. The Bike Walk Greenville Eco Counter ribbon cutting will be held in March, and Metro Connects is now handling all the locates throughout the city. Director Tate introduced the Public Works summer intern, Abraham Evans. He also responded to questions concerning the Eco Counter and how the data is collected. Administrator Vincent updated the council on the Sewer Code Amendment Ordinance. This change is in result of turning over our sewer system to Metro Connects. There was discussion between the council and staff around pumping of the septic tanks, the costs, and whether there should be a sunset date. Administrator Vincent briefed the council on 2 RFPs that the city received for the curbside residential solid waste recycling program. The city will continue looking at other options and will consider whether to offer recycling service at all. Thank you. That's the report.
Thank you, Chair Chris. We were busy last week. In
Yes,
Public
we
Works,
were.
So thank you for that. Next, we move into Public Safety. Chair Byers.
The Public Safety Committee met March 6th and reviewed the February public safety reports. Fire Chief Robertson spoke about the changes made to the monthly reports. Police Chief Ford responded to questions concerning an increase in motor vehicle collisions and Walmart service calls. He attributed the increase to the growth of the city. And the building permit report and municipal court report were also included, noting there was nothing new.
Thank you, Chair Byers. Next, we'll move into Planning and Development Committee. Chair Vest.
Planning and Development Committee met on March 6th, and we discussed the February Planning and Development Report. Director Foreman answered questions regarding the townhome development just south of the city limits.
Ways and Means Committee. Chair Baumgartner.
The Ways and Means Committee did not meet on March 6th. However, we do have before us the February financial report, and I make a motion to approve this February, to approve the report before council for the financials for February 2023.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Chair Vest. Eric, do you have any summary or anything from last month? Anything to highlight?
I did. I sent out a brief summary via email. I don't have it right in front
That's
of
okay.
me.
I put you on the spot.
Apologize.
Yeah, no worries.
But everything is looking wonderful. We have ahead of our ad valorem tax projections are looking very good, and going into the end of the fiscal year this year, we're looking very good on that. There are a couple of items that you'll notice. We received some grants this year that we've got after the budget, and so we'll have a couple of items that will go exceed the expense, like the SRO at Gateway. That was a budget, and that's a reimbursement program. So you'll see some of those lines on the police side will go over, but we'll have the revenue being reimbursed on the back end. But all the funds are looking healthy. And just a real quick update on the audit. We hope to have the audit presented to council in April.
We have motion by Grant, second by Brantley. All in favor? Thank you for that. Next, we have ordinances and resolutions for first reading. Councilmember Chris.
Thank you so much. So at the committee meeting, we discussed sewage and to look at this code, and I know that the city staff has been hard at work and coming up with some amendments for us to consider. So Administrator Vincent, would you please present?
Oh, wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric, do you want us to vote on it first and then go into
Yeah, if y'all want to
discussion?
kind of get a motion on the floor, and then I
Okay.
could join in the conversation, or
great.
if that's how you'd like to
Denise,
do
you
it.
want to make the motion?
Sure. To accept it, oh yes, here we go.
Yeah.
So I move that we consider ordinance O0123 before council to approve recommended revisions of City Code Chapter 4.04 sewage system. And just a summary, the code has been amended to remove obsolete and unnecessary provisions. The only changes proposed is to the septic tank pumping provision is to change the minimal frequency from 18 months to 36 months.
Thank you. Heard that motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Got a second, my grant. Now, let's open it for
Wonderful.
discussion. And any
Thank you,
changes
Mayor.
we can make, we can do it on second reading.
Correct,
Sound good? Okay,
yes. Since at first reading, council wanted to look at other options for how we continue with our septic pumping program. We've done we've done some research into the program, and I've provided some data. Each of you should have a printout up there. I wanted to take just a brief moment to go over some of the findings that we had. As far as council voting on this, it's not a time-sensitive matter, so however council feels, really the two options for council this evening would be to move it forward to second with the understanding that you may make amendments at second reading. Any amendments you'd like to make, they would be able to be done at second, or if council would like to hold it for another month at first, then you could hold it and bring it back up in April and keep it at first reading. So those are kind of your options moving forward if you'd like to introduce amendments.
There's not pressure for us to make the decision tonight. We just
Yeah.
got all this today. Great.
No time pressure or no time, it's not a time-sensitive matter, so we can proceed at our own pace on this. So we did find out that we have 129 total septic systems in the city. 3 of those are commercial systems, 126 residential systems. 5 of those are currently considered inactive systems, and then 29 septic systems that were actually identified that were prior to 1979, which is what our current ordinance specifies that we service. Of those 29 that are pre-79, 4 of those have the same ownership that they had in 1979. So that's interesting to note. Also, something that we discovered was of the 129 systems, 17 of those are rental properties. We have records going back to 2016 on properties that have received a septic tank pump, and that's 56 total properties since 2016 have been pumped by the city. 15 of those 56 are properties with multiple pump outs on 15 of those properties. 120 properties have been paying the $10 monthly fee, are currently today paying. Of those 120 that have been paying the $10 per month fee, about half of those, or 66 of those, have been paying prior to 2012, have consistently paid prior to 2012. The remainder have been added since 2012, that's a kind of multiple different years between 2012 and 2023, with a lot of those years being recent. The average amount paid in those customers that have been added since 2012, the average amount paid into the program is $459. 9 of the properties we have not collected a fee on 9 of the 129 properties. So we discovered that 9 of the properties have not been billed or added to that public or to that sewer fee. And then below are some 3 options. There's multiple other options, obviously, that council can consider. Option 2 was the option that I kind of recommended for council's consideration. Again, we got some time to consider these and determine which route council would like to go. But I would recommend that council consider, a sunset provision that would sunset the program in 3 years, which corresponds with our 36-month pump out. So basically, we're saying that we'll pump every 36 months, and then 3 years it will sunset, which would give everyone one more pump within that time upon request. Those eligible for that would be the 103 lots. That excludes the 17 rental properties. And it would exclude the 9 that have not paid into the system at all. So it basically would be 103 eligible homes that have paid into the system, excluding the rental properties. I did want to draw to your attention, we looked into some other concerns of council or questions that council had related to financial aid. And there are 2 programs out there that we identified. There may be more, and we'll continue to look for those. But South Carolina does offer a financial aid in the form of a fixed 1% loan for up to $15,000 for homeowners or residents to replace or install new septic systems on their property. Also, the city's CDBG money can be used if it's for low and moderate income families. That is an eligible use of our CDBG money as well. I'll continue to do some research on that topic between now and second reading to see if there's any other programs out there for residents that could be eligible. Another important note is that we reached out to our contractor who handles our septic tank pumps, and they've extended a free assessment of everyone on this next go-around of pump outs to determine if there's other issues related to their septic systems that could cause it not to be functioning properly. So they've offered a free assessment, and they've also extended a 25% discount that they would offer to the homeowner if there were any drain field replacement required, any issues that they need to require their drain field placement. So they've extended that for a period up to 3 years. So that discount, that 25% discount offer would be valid for up to 3 years, the life of whatever sunset 3 years, if we did a 3-year sunset clause. We did not ask them about another time period to guarantee that 25%, but, depending on what council's wishes are, we could go back and revisit that or negotiate what they would be willing to lock in.
Just from my understanding, if there was an issue, what would it look like? Is it like tearing up the ground? Is it drainage or?
It would be a drain field issue. Sometimes they get crushed, or sometimes they just don't function properly, and it causes that sewer effluent not to be able to flow out of the tank properly. And so as a result, they back up, and rainwater backs up because the drain field doesn't drain properly. They see that all the time, and they can determine that with a visual inspection of the tank and then give the homeowner that advice on what needs to happen. So it's a fairly straightforward visual assessment that they can determine, what needs to happen to correct the issue.
Council, what other questions or
Yeah,
thoughts
I got
do we have?
a question. I know a lot of this is probably before you were here, and the records are there like it's probably why we're having this conversation. But how would 9 households never pay, and 8 of the 9 were able to benefit from the same service that people have been paying into?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can just basically state that, anytime you have a program in place that kind of tracks multiple homes over multiple years, and you have change in turnover of staff, and things just tend to slip through the cracks sometimes, and I think that's an example of just slipping through the cracks on something like that. We did do an audit around 2019, Philip and I, and we went back and added a lot of these that weren't paying the fee. We discovered that it wasn't consistent across the board, and so we went back and got in touch with Greenville Water, and we added a bunch at that point in time, but I guess these either got added subsequent to that, and we just haven't gone back and added them, or they just were missed when we did our initial kind of audit in 2019.
Out of all of these, there's only 4 that really, by our ordinance, qualify now.
Yeah, 29 would qualify. Now, if you read the ordinance as to a promise made to the homeowner that lived there in 79, which,
Did that say carry on to the next?
yeah, I mean, if I had to read the intent of the council at the point in time, I think that they probably intended for it to apply to the homeowner that was in the house in 79. Don't know if they intended that to carry over to 4 different homeowners and generations of homeowners that have moved in and out of that residence. I think that they probably intended for it to apply to the person living there at the time.
So with the recommendation, the one that you're recommending, is that essentially the 36 months, and then we will say, we're not offering anymore? That's like the original one that was presented?
That would correspond with the extending the pump out frequency to 36 months. So basically, if we did do a sunset, it would correspond with the 36-month frequency that we modified or that we are recommending. So,
Does the estimated cost assume that all 103 take advantage of this offer?
great question. We assume 75%
Okay.
would take advantage.
Yeah.
That might be a little aggressive.
Yeah.
It could be more
I'm-
like
yeah,
50,
better to
but
be
I
on
wanted
that
to be
side.
more conservative. So we basically assumed that 75% of those eligible would take advantage of the system.
You said before that some people have called every 18 months consistently and others have not called, right?
Yes, we have, of the ones we had records for, we had 15 properties that have received 2 or 3 pumps of the 56 that we've pumped. So 15 different properties, and that would be a good place to realize that those 15 probably have some other issues going on
Yeah.
with their septic, with their drainage field.
Why don't you recommend covering the rental properties?
In those cases, the renter pays the water bill, and so the renter's paying the bill and the landlord or owner is getting the benefit.
Yeah.
And so it's a little disconnect there, so, and it's a business. So I don't know if we would want to include those. That would be the rationale for excluding those rental properties.
My rationale for it is like they've been paying, so why wouldn't?
But the renter's been paying, the homeowner hadn't been paying.
But the renter is the one who benefits from the septic being pumped.
If the renter's changed 5 times over the last few years, different renters, you're still rewarding the homeowner.
So we don't pump the 3 commercial systems, correct?
I don't think so, no. We have
Like
not.
as a
Oh,
policy, or they've just never asked?
Good question. Have we ever been requested to pump a commercial system?
But lots of other people have been taking advantage of it, so I figure if they ask, then we would have.
Well, I mean, Philip also stepped into a little bit of a mess there, so I would think you just start doing what you can when you know the thing. When you know better, you do better, right? So like that, I'm sure we can't go back to all those things.
A lot of it is customer service. We wanted
Yeah.
just to we wanted to provide the service, and I think it was just easier for us to say yes than it was to go back and dig through some files.
That'd be my only argument for including the 17 rentals, is just to keep it as clean as possible for 3 years.
It's not a huge cost difference.
Right,
Just be done with
a
it.
couple
Not a
$1,000s.
huge cost. I just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention, just so y'all.
So Grant's recommendation last week was 9 years, and all of yours are 3 years. Can you talk about why that's your recommendation?
Well, I think just in general, if we want to be out of the sewer business, we probably should be looking at capping this and not expanding the program. If you want to do 6 years, then all of a sudden, we're setting a new date today that we have to track. And the longer you draw that out into the future, we're going to run into some of the same issues that we're facing right now. And so we're tracking over many years of eligibility and not eligibility, and we're adding to that list. And so the longer the sunset clause, the more administration concerns that I have about consistently administering the program. And also, I think it's wise for us to align the frequency of eligible pumps with the sunset time period. So that way, if we're doing a 36-month frequency, it probably should align with our sunset, and everybody would get one more. It also would encourage people to determine what is actually wrong with their systems, because in a perfect world, most septic systems really don't need to be pumped, but, every 10 years. And so if we're doing 36 months, I think that's pretty aggressive still. And even if you're doing it every 36 months or twice in 6 years, it tells me that something else is going on with their system. And so we really want to get our inspectors out there, look at the system and fix what's going on, as opposed to putting a Band-Aid on it for,
Just one point of clarification for me. So if we begin notifying the 120, you're saying that the company we have an agreement with will proactively go assess their system now at no cost, and is that right?
no, it would be based on a request for a pump out. So it would be
Okay.
initiated by the homeowner, just like they would request a pump out.
Yeah.
It would be eligible for one more pump out within 3 years.
Mhm.
As part of that pump, the company would do an assessment while they're on site.
While they're on site.
It's not a
Okay.
special separate trip. So it
Okay.
would do the assessment while they're on site.
Got it.
They would notify the homeowner that they may have other issues going on, and they would extend a discounted rate to that homeowner
Mhm.
to correct whatever issues need to be corrected.
So
On the
we're
drain
not
field.
paying for the,
We would not
Fix.
propose paying for the drain field replacement.
oh, okay,
The
gotcha,
drain
gotcha.
field replacement runs up to $8,000 in today's dollars per residence.
Okay.
We feel that, if we could pass along a discounted rate because we got volume and that's what
Economy
we
of scale, yeah.
negotiated, we're passing along like a discount, we negotiated a discounted rate for the homeowner to take advantage of.
Eric, also on the new residents, I know we talked about it, but just for clarification too, on Grayson Point, are we paying for those? Those are new houses and a whole new subdivision. Are we paying for those septic tanks to be?
Great point. We looked into that one in Hawks Crest
Yep.
specifically. Those were the two newest ones that we had records of, and both Planning Commission approval documents as well as the final plats filed with Greenville County that are publicly available state that they're on septic. So any expectation of a homeowner buying into those homes, it should be expected that they're buying into a septic tank lot, and it's always been that expectation. We found no records of any agreements made. And any agreement that would have been made would not have been made with homeowners. It would have been a discussion with the developer possibly, but those homeowners were not party to any discussion that would have happened with a developer. And they're purchasing a lot that basically
Right.
states that it's septic. I think it's just been a continuation of our expansion of the program by just not being able to track it properly.
I have a process question. If we were to make some of these changes, how many letters will the homeowners get to remind them? Because sometimes one, they just miss.
That's a great question. So we're expanding the program from 29 to 120 if we pass as option 2 presented. We could provide as much or as little notification as council would deem fit. I mean, normally we would just make sure that people were aware with one notification. We'd push it out through Facebook. We could send a letter since we have all of their addresses. We could send out a letter, but I would say one notification probably would be sufficient, but we could do as many as council would like.
Okay, thank you. I think a letter to the individual homeowner is
Yeah.
definitely important. And
I
then
would-
the social media part.
Think like once now to say, okay, start planning, and then closer to the end of the 3 years, like, okay.
Well, I think, are we going to send one to let them know that council is voting on that so they can come and discuss or share their concerns? The only thing that I think of is we're saying, okay, you have 3 years to pump out your septic. So and then we'll do an inspection, which sounds really good, but then all of a sudden you have these drain field issues and now you got to pay this company.
I have to.
Well, you don't have to, but I mean, but now you have this additional fee or charge if you want to correct your drain field.
They always had to, the
they
city
always-
wasn't, were we correcting drain fields?
We weren't,
No.
okay.
Okay, so they were always responsible for that.
No. At one
Well, I think
time, we would replace the drain field one time. Now, here's the thing that gets me. All right, I've been around here a long time. and you keep referring to 29 lots, 29 lot, whatever that says, I'm not, I've seen it in my old manual, I've seen that as well. But there's a certain thing, it's called previous practice. Previous practice is legal. You can go back and check it. What you've been doing, regardless of what it says, we have been pumping those septic tanks. Have we not? Have we not been practicing for years? I've been the beneficiary of it happening. So I don't want to hear no more about the 29 septic tank lots. Previous practice says we've been doing them all. Okay,
But mine.
now, how about on the money end of this thing? Would this money stay in a restricted account of what we have left? Or are we doing it, transferring it all to general fund?
No, so we have a balance in our sewer fund that would stay in the sewer fund. It's a restricted account.
And how much is that? I'm trying to figure it out, like, is it the 1.7 million?
Yes.
Correct.
That's what it is? Okay. And that'll stay in a restricted account. Okay, and how many, in 2022, how many septic tanks did we pump?
Well, we pumped 56 since 2016. I
Alright.
don't have the number in front of me on how many we did last year.
So that's 7 years. In 7 years, you've pumped 56 septic tanks.
Actually, we've only pumped 41 because 15 of those 56 are double pumps.
56 different properties.
Okay.
56 different properties. Now, the number of pumps is greater than that because 15 of those were
Yeah.
multiple times.
And those are the ones that should have the drain fields replaced. I get that. So, but my point is this, if we've done 56 pumps in
No, 56 properties.
56 properties since 2016? In
56
7
different
years.
properties, yes.
7 years. That's 8 a year? How much does it cost to get it one pump?
I don't have the number of pumps per
400,
year.
$400, $500?
What's a good estimate on the number of pumps? About 25 pumps per year.
Okay. Okay. So it's been an average of 26 properties per year? The point I'm getting to, what I want to get to, is if we're having that few properties pumped per year, and we've got $1.7 million, and even at $500 a piece, and, 10, that's $5,000. We got some CPAs on here? How much, out of $1 million, out of $1.7 million, will we not recoup that back in interest in a money market fund somewhere? Will we not get that much money back if we leave that kind of money in a bank account?
Well, I think I take your line of questioning and understand what you're getting at. I think the question here is like, are we halfway still in the sewer business if we continue,
Well,
right?
I
We're trying
understand
to
that,
step
Brantley,
out.
and I agree with you on that. I mean, but again, it's like I said in committee meetings. I don't have a choice. If you run a sewer line down Williams Road, I would be the first one, I promise you, to come up here and pay for my tap. I don't have a choice. Kelly doesn't have a choice. And that's just people on city council. What I'm saying is we've still got people out there that don't have a choice. They have to be on a septic tank. That whole neighborhood that you guys were just talking about, they don't have a choice.
But from a money standpoint, nobody's paying into this anymore. So it's like, even if we said, let's just keep what we're doing because we've been doing it, I mean, I don't know, that still seems weird. It's not paying for itself. I don't think it ever did pay for itself. I mean, we don't know because it's such a, I don't know. I see what you're saying.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, you've
yeah.
got this pool of money.
It's such a small
yeah.
group of people.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
part of me is
exactly.
like,
But
yeah.
again, like I said, those groups of people have no choice, but,
Sure.
they have no choice.
I mean, I
but-
guess they could tap into sewer, but God, how much would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what a sewer tap is. It's pretty doggone expensive,
Not
but
cheap.
again, I mean, I don't know how you ever gonna make everybody happy with this thing.
Well, that's not our job.
Yes.
Is to make
Well,
everybody happy.
But it is
yeah.
our job to take care of our people.
And to think about policy for the whole. And I think
Well-
that's where I get stuck. I'm like, man, it's such a small group of people-ish. I don't know, I go back and forth with you too, Wayne. It's a
Yeah.
hard one.
So, I mean, it's, you know, damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of situation, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and we're not actually the ones pumping the septics. I mean, we're hiring somebody else, just, you know, so we're not actually,
The cost,
I
yeah.
would,
right, it's a cost, but it's not manpower of ours, but it is a cost, yeah.
and I would like to address that point. That's a great point. One of the concerns that we haven't discussed, and that was my initial concern when I came on, is that they're a contractor of the city going on private property. There are some liability concerns. We've had several where people have accused us of damaging property, our contractor damaging property. We've had a way of disproving or proving that our contractor damaged their drain field. And so it becomes a slippery slope of what our responsibility is when we start getting our contractors on private property. And then that begins to expand our potential liability of what we're responsible for fixing. So just as a recommendation to the council, I would strongly consider that we want to limit the amount of work we do on people's private property.
And Eric, I just want to ask, like, in reality, 129, if part of that group sells to another owner, then they're not included in that number anymore, correct?
And that's correct, and that's why I have concerns about extending that period, because then we're just creating what they did in 79, it just starts to grow again. And so we would have to begin to track that all over again. We're setting another date certain in today, locking in the people again, grandfathering the 120, and then that grows and changes over 6 years. Multiple things change. We have change in staff, we have change in the number of septic, and so then you begin to create a new program that changes over 6 years. So if the consideration is the sunset time period, the recommendation would be to try to keep it a reasonable amount of time so the system just doesn't grow all over again like it did post 79.
Well, even at Grayson Point, there's certain houses that sold 2 or 3 times already, so, you know, it's harder for me to do away with the people that have been here, that's purchased the property. But the new developments, they should have known, like if I buy a house in the county, I know I have to pay for my septic. And it shouldn't be an expectation that we're covering that. And I don't know if we are on those, but that's a problem for me with the new developments, and those houses are being sold over and over, and that's a continued cost for us.
I would estimate that if they get a letter in the mail, 120 homes, it's going to be news to a lot of those people. So they're going to be we would be expanding it to 120 homes, which I don't know how to judge how many of those people are even aware that they're eligible for this, but I would be.
If I bought a new house now, I
no.
wouldn't assume that anything around. Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so we know that there's a lot of new residents that have moved into these homes over the years, and that there's no expectation that the city continues to do this for those new residents.
Well, Eric, remind us of our options again, so we can move this forward, add amendments next week, or we could table it.
You could table it and hold it at first reading, or you could vote to move it forward with amendments at second reading, and you could introduce any amendments you'd like at second reading.
So we'd have a month to kind of
You'd
do
have
our
a month
research
to
and- yeah.
digest this information, and then, you know, make some, just get your thoughts together and ask any questions. I'd be available, obviously, for the next month to answer any questions that council may have, any individuals, and then definitely, and you could hold it at second reading if you were not ready to vote on it at second as well. So if you moved it forward tonight and you wanted to introduce amendments, or you were not ready, you could hold it again at second, and y'all have that ability. There is no clock ticking that is forcing us to move forward faster. You could hold it indefinitely at second reading for multiple times if you wanted to. So really, you know, it's council's purview on what you do with it moving forward.
What do you guys think? Like, maybe just move it forward, council members, and then I'm sure we'll talk about it again in committee, so we could get additional conversation.
I could
like
put
the
it on the
idea.
committee agenda under the non-committee section of the agenda.
Yeah, that I can, okay.
For all of council to
Just to
discuss.
see how we feel. Like,
We
are
could
we
have-
moving to option 2? Do we need to?
We could have that discussion at committee, and then it could come back
I
up
like
at
the
second
idea of
reading.
just going ahead and moving on, because with what we have, and then deal with it at second reading.
Okay, I like that
As we
too.
need
Does that work for you, Shanice?
Mhm.
All right, so,
Got a motion, right?
okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Wayne, you're nay? Okay. All right, Wayne is our only opposed, is that correct? Sherry, I didn't see you, sorry.
So, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right. Thank you for that, all that work. I'm sure that was a lot to pull together. Let's see, old business, we have none. New business, we have none. Miscellaneous matters. Eric, you got an administrative update for us?
Yes, I do. Last weekend, the trail counter ribbon cutting ceremony was postponed. It's rescheduled for Saturday at 3 o'clock. I believe is the estimated time. We want everybody to be there.
Where is it exactly?
Beth?
At the traffic light.
On the corner
first
of
traffic
Road
light.
and Main,
TR Oriental,
right
across the
next to
street.
TR Oriental.
Thanks.
We're gonna have a little canopy set up to the left of it if you're facing it from Main Street. And there'll be people there from up, Bike Walk Greenville, giving brochures out, and they're gonna do a raffle at Community Tap.
Nice.
What I'll do is I will send out an email with the exact dates, or rather the exact time, because I'm not 100% sure that it's 3 o'clock. A lot of it's going to depend on the bike ride, which starts in the Tap in Greenville and ends in the Tap in TR. So,
Okay, thank you.
What are we running a day? Like, do we know? Do we have any guesses yet?
I have not actually checked the data recently, but
Okay.
it's been up there.
It was
for
like
sure.
1,000
it.
or something the first
Look
couple
at it.
days or something, was it?
I have not looked at it today.
Wow.
Normal weather's gonna, it's
Yeah.
gonna shoot up pretty quick.
That's really cool.
Couple more real quick items for council is that we did get our magazine for Paula Dean Magazine, and we got several copies of it here at City Hall. We were featured heavily in that magazine by the editor, so it's a wonderful write-up, and we have some copies here at City Hall. It's also going to be digital, I understand, so when it comes out digital, we'll make sure y'all get a copy of that, and we'll promote it on our social media as well. Want to give congratulations to Furman basketball program who beat University of Virginia today
That's a big deal.
in March Madness. So
For
that's
our
great.
non-basketball people on council, myself, what does that mean exactly?
deal.
Do we get a gold medal?
That
Are we like
is-
national champions? What does that mean?
It is a national
We
tournament.
moved to the round of 32.
But did we win?
Yes.
Furman
We won the game today.
They-
Okay,
Not
so
the
we
entire
didn't win the
tournament.
whole thing.
Not
No,
yet.
No. They just
But we're
won the
really
first round.
excited about winning that, but we're not winning.
To make it there is a big,
Okay.
big thing. Furman hasn't been since 1980?
We won the SoCon tournament.
43 years, okay.
We won
Oh,
the
that-
Southern
yes.
Conference tournament
get into
to
the
allow us to get into the NCAA tournament. We do have a trophy.
Okay, so we,
And,
Lisa, that's
and
what I
Virginia
needed.
was number 4. So
Yeah.
for Furman to step it up
Number
that much
13.
was like,
Furman was a 13 seed.
yeah.
and
it
we're
was-
better than
Also, it's
Virginia.
worth noting
Well,
that they're
that's
only the
today.
second team from the Southern Conference after Wofford to even advance in the last, I don't know, I forget how many years, but it's been a lot of years since anybody from the Southern Conference has even advanced to
Pretty
that
big
next
deal.
round.
Oh, Wofford did that just a few years ago.
That's what I'm saying,
didn't
yeah,
they?
well, I said Wofford.
Those two.
You need to borrow my hearing aids?
And also,
It wasn't just a few years ago, wasn't all that long ago, because I remember that coach
Yeah.
moving on.
and also, Mayor, North Greenville's band was playing for them today.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
We traveled
Also,
with them.
on the record, Clemson got snubbed. They belonged in the tournament.
Like, oh, the timing.
Well, Councilmember Lane had recommended that maybe we could do something
Like a
for, like,
proclamation.
proclamation, or Beth, if you had any fun
yeah.
ideas, or, how, maybe we go to the university or something like that, so.
I got something, next month will be 10 years that since Furman has been in
That's
the city,
right,
April 18th.
Oh,
And
it
so
would be
if you want
April,
to do
wouldn't it?
something on that council meeting, that would be
Yeah, that would be fun.
10 years plus the,
Yeah. You
What do
can
you
do the SoCon championship
Yeah.
and the advancement. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
I think it was funny, there was so little faith in Furman, and like 30 seconds left, when they were behind, it was 89.9% chance of Virginia winning. And they ended up coming back at that last.
only 10% of the people
Believed
in
it?
their bracket.
Yeah,
Had 2.2 seconds left when it made the last.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
10% of the people that do brackets pick Furman. 90% of the people pick
Our
against.
doubters.
A lot of money was made by those
Oh,
people.
absolutely.
Well, great, I
You
think
didn't
we need
bet,
to do
though.
something special for them, so I
Yeah.
think that's a great suggestion by Lisa, yeah.
So exciting. And hopefully we'll be back here next week saying that they won their second round game as well. I do want to mention one other thing that has been brought to
We're
my
not gonna be
attention
here next
recently.
week, right?
And that is that we have a new graduate of the Advanced MEO Institute, and Mayor Amadon is a recent graduate of the Advanced
I finally got it done, guys.
Municipal
Good job.
Elected Officials Institute.
First class.
Congratulations.
I was the first class that done that.
Yeah.
I have two questions. Recycling, are we going to talk about that at the next committee meeting?
That's a great question. So I plan to have that discussion as part of our budget review.
Okay,
We've got the numbers and we'll present those options as far as costs, and that could be basically part of our budget discussion if we do not, can't afford to continue or want to look at other options. I would like to update the council that we've had conversations with Greater Greenville and Greenville County. And one option they are looking into is introducing some additional convenience centers. That if we do want to kind of go in that direction, that we'll have some assistance from Greenville County and from Greater Greenville Sanitation to introduce at least 2 more convenience centers in the city of TR. That would be in addition to the one that's already in place at Food Lion.
and I have one last question. Have there been any updates about the Travelers Rest Historical Society and their property, the beautiful property?
Wonderful question, yes. So we have been in touch with with the Historic Society. They've contracted an engineer. They are working on a civil plan for the parking lot currently. And we have been working with the city attorney to develop a memorandum of understanding that we would enter into with the Historical Society. That will come forward to council in April for committee consideration. So basically, it would just be a memorandum that would lay out each party's roles and responsibilities and rights as it relates to the future parking lot.
Eric, in reference to that question, in reference to the parking lot, are they discussing a different area for that parking lot? Or are they set? I mean, we hadn't discussed that in a while.
Yeah, so
It
all
needs
the
to be part
plans
of
that
this.
they have drawn up by the civil have been at the location where it was originally planned in their conceptual plans. And so they plan to move forward with that location.
But will we have a say-so in that or discussion?
Actually, no, that's something that is, it's just an administrative review, a building permit review. It doesn't require council approval for a zoning change or any sort of formal approval process through
I
county,
think it
through
should
city
be looked
council.
at. I really think it should be looked at, though, because we're funneling everybody down one street, and it hadn't really been a discussion, and there's enough room on the other side that already has a parking lot with on and off access from the main road.
I agree. I think that they looked at that early on. I remember that discussion was brought up and they looked at that critically. And I think some of the concern about relocating it was that they expressed a desire to close that parking lot off completely and eliminate a crossing on the trail there that would be unnecessary. That would basically, because right now there's a conflict point there with vehicles going into that parking lot and out. Their plan called for that to be eliminated, so that could be all green space and park space through there. And so I think that was, and I think there's some other site considerations as far as drainage and some other civil considerations that they looked into. And I think just they made a determination that cost effectiveness, civil engineering, and a lot of other reasons kind of dictated the location of
I
that.
just don't think it's safe because one-way traffic, you can only get in one way. And that's funneling everybody down that one-way street that's kind of crowded anyway with people parking. And then it still crosses the trail, so it's not eliminating not crossing the trail.
Well, so they would cross the trail at Rowe, but then they would not need to cross the trail again because the access would be off of Old Buncombe. So the only crossing to get to the parking lot for vehicles in this scenario would be the crossing at
And
Rowe.
the exit is the bigger concern, right?
Yeah, now they would exit out, which is
that's
already a
what I'm talking
crossing.
about, the
Yeah,
exit
it's
part,
already a
there's
crossing,
only-
but it
yeah.
would eliminate one of the crossings.
I think
that
you
we
could
currently have.
consider having exiting traffic, not having it two-way at Main, but rather two-way at the point of that exit where you could exit right and go down Old Buncombe if there's room there.
Definitely.
Is this going to affect me? I live
I'm sorry, ma'am, that's it's not for open for public comment, but we'll grab you afterwards. Oh, you're okay, yeah. It's, no worries, no worries, just hang out and we'll talk to you afterwards, yeah.
So has the civil engineer looked at the traffic flow patterns, or is it more about the land and land use?
So it doesn't trigger a traffic study because of the volume is so low in this particular case. It's a 55 space parking lot. So we could request that one, but it's not required that they do one.
That's a lot smaller.
That's a
than I
lot of
thought.
traffic though, still.
So that's one of the considerations. They have not planned on doing a traffic study at this point in time. I can say that. They would, yeah, so 55 spaces, I believe, is the total number. The process for approval would be that we strongly encourage the Historic Society to get with the neighbors and share with them their plans of the parking lot before they proceed. They have not submitted any formal approvals for the city, and so what we've communicated to the Historic Society is that they sit down with the neighbors and share their plans once they're completed, which would include landscape plans, and the parking lot plans once they're completed, and basically talk to them neighbor to neighbor.
Would it be a public hearing for all the neighbors so they're aware of it?
There is not a public hearing as part of the process.
There's
No,
no
not
zoning
appro-
involved, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
not,
right,
this
yeah.
isn't a.
What is it zoned for currently?
Currently, it's in the downtown overlay district.
So it can
So
have a parking lot and it's
It's
within the
It's an
zoning.
approved use in the downtown overlay district.
Now,
That's
they can
correct.
put their parking lot wherever they want, but we're helping pay for
That's
it,
what I
so
was
we
gonna
have
ask.
some say in where it goes,
They're
so.
asking for funding, right?
Exactly,
Can
yes.
we, I would recommend doing a traffic study, because that traffic on Main Street gets backed up, and if you're having 55 cars trying to come out and turn onto Main Street, or is it gonna reverse, are they gonna reverse the traffic the
You're
opposite
also right there
direction?
in a crosswalk, in a public crosswalk section too, right there at that,
It
at
is.
that stop sign.
Why doesn't our ask be that you and Mike think of it more of holistically from, there's gonna be 55 there, but we're also gonna need other parking eventually. I know you're thinking about all these things, but maybe just help paint a picture for us. It is a busy spot, so thinking of that many people. Or the Historical Society is gonna have events. They're gonna have weddings there. Like, what is that gonna look like? Is there other opportunity to hide parking from like another entrance? I don't know those things. I'm just saying, like, maybe that's something you guys can help us from a planning We're not planners, but, help us think.
And on that
Okay.
note, if it is events, also think about like large trucks, right? They're gonna be delivering pieces of
Food.
furniture.
That's good, too. Wedding
Right.
venues, yeah.
And not blocking that one way, just little things like that. But I was gonna ask you, the duplex that's on the property right now, the little white house, is that remaining or is that coming off the
It
property?
is gonna remain,
Right.
is
I knew it was
the
affordable
current
housing.
plan that I saw was that it would remain and serve as a short-term rental or available for wedding parties. If they wanted to
Okay.
rent it overnight, it would be available for that purpose. I think that's their plan for that piece. At this point in the process, it would be considerable expense to begin to ask the engineer to completely re-engineer the site. I believe they've expended quite a bit of money on engineering the parking lot where it's currently located. So I think that's something that if we want to ask them to do that, I believe that they would have to start from scratch.
I wasn't asking for them to, I was thinking about like us thinking that if that parking lot's gonna be there, like how do we do some of the other things or traffic or, I don't know.
Yeah,
just
I think we
more
can look at
holistically.
mitigation of all those things that are concerned. So I think it's just getting an understanding of what the concerns are and seeing how they can be mitigated effectively so that it has the least impact on anybody that could potentially be affected.
Well, even when, the way it is now, when TNS Brass gets off, a lot of cars cut through that road. And when I'm running, I see it backed
Yep.
up, and it's hard, when they're backed up already and we're putting an event there, where's the traffic gonna even go?
Or St. Gobain has
And
the
it
same
takes a long
problem.
time for them to get out on the road because there's no traffic light.
That road is ours. We can make it two ways when you're on the road. So in other words, we can control the traffic flow on that road. The only point that we can't control is where it comes into the state road. So in other words, if we wanted to look at making it two-way traffic on that section of Buncombe, but just make it to where you can't turn in off of 276, then you have two-way traffic if you're already on the road, but you're just not turning in off of 276 in that
Right.
location. So exits can be exit out both directions. that's something that we have the ability to look
Yeah.
at. What we don't have the ability to do is to, the DOT would probably not agree to making the road full two-way in and out because they would have a say
I don't think we'd want to
in
do
that.
that
And we
anyway.
probably wouldn't want to do that. So
Oh.
since that's our section of road, we'd be happy to take a look and I could
Yeah,
get the
that'd
You
be
city.
might lose the street parking to make that happen, but you're adding 55 other spaces, so
Correct.
it'd be a
But the-
good trade-off.
The other consideration you gotta think about are the homes that are there, cause that street parking is used for their residences or for visitors
Yeah, for
at the
visitors there.
residence, so
Yeah,
we got
fair.
an issue there.
Fair.
We chased a rabbit there,
Yeah.
Well, we,
but thank you, Shanice,
We
for
appreciate-
that.
It's important to know
But
what's
it is
happening.
important, yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, but
Also-
you guys tell us, like,
we can
look at
certainly,
that,
we'll
yeah.
do a thorough review of anything that's presented. It's, like you said, it's some of our money being spent on it. So
Sure.
we want to make sure that we're happy with the end result and all the neighbors are happy with the end result. And that if it's a traffic concern, we can address that through mitigation. If it's a lighting or a noise concern, we feel confident we can address any of those concerns. But we do want to hear, and so I think an informal meeting between neighbors will hopefully get both parties together, and then we can report back what needs to be done to mitigate any concerns that the neighbors may have.
Right. I don't think anybody's gonna be super excited about having a parking lot near them, but how can we make sure we're smart about it? And also the flow, I think that's what council's most concerned about. Okay, great. Did you get all your questions answered? Was it
thank
not?
you.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Anything else for the good of council? Motion?
To adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, thank you guys, I appreciate it.